Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the San Francisco 49ers at the Cleveland Browns in their Week 14 matchup played December 13th, 2015. We're going to go over the scores and the stats and give our breakdown and analysis. So starting off in the first quarter, with about 5.5 minutes still left in the first, Isaiah Crowell scored on a 1-yard touchdown run that capped off an 84-yard drive. As they marched down the field in just 6 plays, Travis Coons kicked the extra point, and it was 7-0 Cleveland over San Francisco. And earlier they had a blocked field goal as Travis Coons, I think it was a 42-yard field goal that was blocked, but it was 7-0 after one. Then in the second quarter, Coons would hit a 26-yard field goal to make it 10-0 Browns over the Niners with about 9 minutes left before halftime. And then with about 4 minutes left before halftime, the Niners would finally get on the board when Phil Dawson hit a 44-yard field goal to make it 10-3. Johnny Manziel threw an interception just before halftime, and that was the second turnover for the Browns in the first half as they had a fumble earlier on. But still, they were up 10-3 at the half. Then in the third quarter, in the closing seconds of the third quarter, Manziel connected with Gary Barnidge for a 2-yard touchdown. Coons added the extra point, and it was 17-3 Browns over the 49ers. So then in the fourth quarter, Isaiah Crowell scored on a 3-yard touchdown run with about 9 minutes left. And with the extra point by Coons, it was 24-3 as the Browns were now up by 3 scores. And then in the closing minutes, with about 2 minutes left, the Niners would score after a 94-yard drive as Blaine Gabbert hit Jerome Simpson for a 6-yard touchdown in garbage time. Dawson added the extra point, and that made it 24-10, and that would be the final score of this game. So Johnny Manziel gets the start, and the Browns get the win, and that stops a 7-game losing streak for the Cleveland Browns. And Isaiah Crowell had a huge day. He was running all over the Niners. So was Duke Johnson Jr. as they put up a pretty impressive performance on the ground against the 49ers team that actually had played decent run defense, especially, week 1 they shut down AP. But here Crowell and Johnson having a field day. But in this game, Johnny Manziel, 21 for 31, 270 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He also had 15 yards rushing off of 7 carries. Isaiah Crowell, 20 carries for 145 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. He also had 1 reception for 9 yards to give him 154 total yards on the game. And Duke Johnson Jr., 13 carries for 78 yards. He also had a catch for 6 yards, which gave him a total of 84 yards on the game. Brian Hartline had 8 receptions for 107 yards, and Gary Barnidge had 5 receptions for 84 yards and a touchdown. Travis Benjamin, 4 receptions for 41 yards. And for the Niners, Blaine Gabbert was 18-28, 194 yards and a touchdown. Gabbert also had 19 yards rushing off of 3 carries. And Drawn had 11 carries for 43 yards, Sean Drawn. And then Bell had 3 receptions for 49 yards, and Patton had 5 receptions for 46 yards. And the kickers in this game, Travis Coons 1 for 2 on the field goals, 3 for 3 on the extra points. Phil Dawson 1 for 1 on the field goals, 1 for 1 on the extra points. And the Cleveland Browns defense was terrorizing Blaine Gabbert. They had 9 sacks in this game. That's right, 9 sacks. Is Orchard had 2 sacks. Bryant had 2 sacks. And, Bryant had 2 sacks. Kirksey had 2 sacks. And also Bryant had 1.5 sacks. Desmond Bryant, as that was Armonte Bryant, who had the 2 sacks. Desmond Bryant with 1.5 sacks. Nate Orchard with the 2 sacks. Kirksey, as I said, had a sack. Cooper had a half a sack. Poyer had a sack. And Widner had a sack as well. Bryant also had a forced fumble. Desmond Bryant had the forced fumble. So 9 sacks, tough to keep track of, as they were just terrorizing Gabbert. They were in that backfield causing all kinds of problems as they were winning that battle in the trenches on both sides of the ball. on defense with that pass rush, and then also on offense with that running game. And for the Niners, Tart had an interception that was right before halftime, and Dial and Armstead each had sacks, and Williams had a forced fumble. Reed also had a forced fumble as well. Look at the team stats: 28 first downs for the Browns, 15 for the Niners, and on third down, the Browns were 6 for 12, 50%. San Francisco just 2 of 13, just 15%. They went for it 3 times on fourth down, and they converted once for 33%. Total net yards, 481 for Cleveland, 221 for San Fran. And on the ground, the Browns netted 230 rushing yards to just 71 for the Niners. So they had 3 times as many yards on the ground, even though both teams had a decent average, as the Niners actually averaged 4.2 on the ground, but the Browns averaging 5.6. And net passing yards, 251 for Cleveland, 150 for San Fran, as Manziel was sacked twice for a loss of 19 yards, and Gabbert was sacked 9 times for a loss of 44 yards. And the penalties in this game, 8 penalties against Cleveland for 71 yards, 5 penalties against San Francisco for 40 yards, and the Niners had 1 fumble, but they recovered it, and the Browns had 3 fumbles. They recovered 2 and lost 1. And in the red zone in this game, San Francisco 3 for 4, 75%. Or rather, Cleveland 3 for 4 for 75%. San Francisco was 100%, but they only made 1 trip to the red zone. And of course, that was in garbage time when they did get that red zone trip. But the time of possession, Cleveland dominated it, as they had the ball almost twice as long, 37 minutes, 39 seconds to 22 minutes, 21 seconds for San Fran. So Cleveland, a very balanced attack, as they actually ran the ball more than they passed the ball, and they were getting a huge production out of their ground game, and that's impressive. Against the Niners defense is kind of underrated. They're not as bad as they might be advertised, but they look that way against the Browns team that's been a basement dweller all season, but they get a big win here, and the glimmer of hope for next season is Johnny Football under center. Of course, he had that punishment where they sat him. I didn't really even think they should sit him, but I mean, I can understand where the coach has got to have control, and so I can see where, he's got his rules, and, if you violate the rules, you're going to have the punishment, and there's got to be discipline in this game. So, but we see that he took that punishment well, and Johnny came back, and he wins in his first start back, as he bolstered the team on the offensive side, and the defense came up huge in this game as well. So the Browns got something to look forward to for next year, although this year they're out of playoff contention by a long shot, not even close. But still, next year, it's kind of been the story for Cleveland all along. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and having a great weekend and enjoying all the sports.